of having grown up in a country with no mammals for millions of years.
Yeah.
Anyway, what you do is you stand behind a rock and wait for a kea to come along, and then you drop behind the rock and disappear. And the kea thinks, that's odd. And he wanders up, and he takes a look over, and you just, with your club, just go bang, like that. That's the beauty of it, you've only just started, because you don't have to move. You take the kea and you put it down. The kea's friend goes, where's Kevin?
Where's Kevin?
Wanders round, comes
They
along
all
like
call
that,
Kevin.
and then you drop down, disappear again, and he goes, whoa, hello, what happened there? There was someone, and then there wasn't someone. How does that happen? And then he looks over, bash, then where's Keith? And then so on, all the way through. And you collect all the case, you get a huge swag bag of kea.
They're not the brightest.
They're not the brightest things. But then you see, the point is they never needed to be. Because New Zealand, just apart from a few bats, never had any mammals.
No.
All they needed to do was mate and survive. The kakapo, for example, which is another type of parrot, the only thing likely to predate on it was a vast eagle that used to live in New Zealand called the Hutt's eagle. And so the kakapo solved that by becoming nocturnal, like the kiwi. So it could be afraid of nothing.
Kiwis are they're not the most exciting birds. I mean, I've seen kiwis.
Have you burrowed down into one of their dens?
No, I haven't bothered to do that.
It's
no, there's one on YouTube playing the piano. No, no, I've seen them in special areas. You know,
I went up with this guy. He found one and he said, get in there, get in there. And so I burrowed. And you just see this little eye winking at you.
Yeah.
And that long, wonderful beak, and it just winked.
Oh. With a little
and I winked back, and then sort of...
A little look that just says, you just destroyed my house.
Yeah.
I was careful not to.
Lovely.
3 years to make this.
The New Zealand government, they were given 2 pandas by the Chinese government in return for 2 kiwis, and I just thought it was a little bit of a twist, you know.
Total rip.
Yeah, it's like New Zealand, the zoo in Auckland, all these people going, oh, look at him, oh, look at the pandas, no. Some zoo in Beijing, people going, what?
These kiwis don't even sneeze.
They don't even nothing.
Very good, very good, very good. Now, what is this woman doing, though?
What the? Is this Lady Gaga's new album cover, isn't it? She's wearing
It's an experiment.
No, she's using a device that's for sale, or was for sale. It was built in 1929.
Making
a new device.
Knitting jumpers?
Patented by Dr. Kurt Jonen. It records the motions and bodily reactions. A lady is pictured being examined by the device. Pneumatic belt records the change of the circumference of her chest. Pneumatic cuffs about the upper arms control the changes of muscle tension. Through a hose is recorded the rhythms of respiration, and another hose transfers the strength of touch.
It's a sex toy.
Yeah.
But what about her hands? That's the clue, and our theme today.
Piano. She's learning piano.
Piano, yes. It's a piano teaching machine. Extraordinary, isn't it? Extraordinary.
Wow.
It's supposed to help you with your piano playing, your posture, your breathing. There have been many others along those lines. There's the chiroplast, which is clamped to the piano and trapped the player's arms. That's the one on the left, so that you were forced to play using only a wrist and finger action.
You were then crippled.
There was the one in the middle, which was the dactylion, from the Greek dactyl, meaning finger, was a contraption designed to strengthen the fingers because there's springs that you're going against in that middle picture.
Yeah.
And it's said that Robert Schumann used that and it actually hurt his fingers, though others say that that was syphilis.
It's a fine line, isn't it?
It is.
When you're into fingering, syphilis...
It's all over.
Next to that is the chiro or the chirogymnaste, which is a tiny finger gym, which has got little finger events, and you can see them. But if you do harm yourself by using one of these things, you can always use the bed piano for bedridden people.
Wow.
Which is a rather splendid device. I think you'll agree.
I hope that's securely attached.
That is the laziest keyboard player in the world.
And as you see, it rolls up, pushes away neatly.
That's fantastic.
That's great, isn't it?
I want one.
You can slide pizzas down from the back.
Yes.
Bill's just sitting there going, I am going to get one of those.
I will. I'm going to get one.
Bill will have one of those.
That's the piano for the bedroom. The upside-down piano.
That's
virtually.
magic.
It'd be easier to strap yourself into bed and tilt the bed up to a normal piano.
Yeah.
How would a left-handed piano work?
Probably high notes at the left.
Exactly.
There it is.
And there it is. That is a left-handed piano. It'd take a hell of a lot of unlearning for you to play on that,
Good
wouldn't it?
God.
Can you imagine? It would drive you mad.
You would.
Transposing pianos. Have you ever played with one of those?
Well, I've got there's a device on the keyboard that will do that.
Yeah.
for you, but
On an electric keyboard.
On an
But
electric
there are
one.
pianos that have a mechanism that
mechanical
moves,
ones.
mechanical
It's a
one.
lever on the
and it moves it across to the next string.
Oh, it does that, right.
Irving Berlin used one because he only composed in F sharp.
He's like Stevie Wonder. He likes
and
the
he couldn't
black
read music, but he was the most successful songwriter of his age.
notes. Really?
Yeah, he couldn't read music. He was fantastically talented. I mean, this is the man who wrote White Christmas, for God's sake, let alone Top Hat, White Tide. He lived long enough to be able to see his own songs go out of copyright. Because his first hit was in 1911 with Alexander's Ragtime Band.
Yeah.
You know, Come On and Hear, Come On and Hear, Alexander's Ragtime Band.
They only go out of copyright after you're dead, though, by
No,
law.
they do now. But in
Right.
his day, it was 75 years after it was written.
Right.
So he lived long enough
God.
to see some of his songs go into the public domain.
How old was
now
he when
it's
he
70
wrote it,
years
then?
after he died. Very young, early 20s. But just had this extraordinary talent.
Amazing.
There's a long list of things I have to get after the show. I mean, there's the upside-down piano, the upside-down dinner, I mean, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what did the man who knew everything think cats were good for?
Well,
Catching mice.
Catching mice?
Isn't the man who knew everything Thomas Young?
Well, there's various people who are given the title of the last man to know everything there was to know.
Yeah.
Erasmus, Leibniz, von Humboldt. And this man here, Kircher, his name is. He was a German Jesuit, Athanasius Kircher. And he certainly was very interested in lots of things. He was lowered into Vesuvius. He believed the bubonic plague was caused by microbes, well ahead of germ theory. Claimed falsely to have interpreted Egyptian hieroglyphics. He regarded things like magnetism and love as branches of the same topic, attraction, which is a very QI way of looking at things. I like that. Yeah.
But the cats, though, what are the cats doing?
Well, we'll come to that. Some things he got right. He denied the possibility of flying tortoises. I don't know who raised the possibility, but he damn well squashed it. Said, nope, there won't be such a thing as a flying tortoise. But he did invent the megaphone and the Katzenklavier. Klavier is, in fact, German for key, from Klaven, Latin key, but it's the keyboard instrument.
the cat playing the piano. He invented YouTube.
I'm afraid for cat lovers, it's a little bit more disturbing than that.
Oh, gut string.
No, not cat guts. No, arrange live cats in the right order according to their voice.
Oh.
And you play...
Drums.
And then,
That's awesome. Oh, if only they had YouTube back then. The outrage on the
Another
keyboard
thing for
case
your
with the-
list, isn't
It's
it?
on the list, yes.
Got to get one of
their
those.
tails are fixed in place underneath hammers. And when a key is pressed, the hammer hits the corresponding. You can even get chords. And of course, there's dynamics. The harder you hit, the more of
You
it.
wouldn't necessarily have to be cruel. You could get a same mechanism, but just have it sort of tickle the bollocks of a cat. It's more like, as opposed to...
For a trill.
What do they think? You have an A cat and a B cat and
Yeah,
a C cat?
I guess it just go around.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But there are only 6 cats, and there are more than 6 keys, so...
Well, that's true. That's a limited range. It's very
Experimental music.
experimental.
All the other keys hit mice inside the box.
It's doubtfully actually built it, but he certainly wrote out the plans for one. There are comparable records of pig organs that Louis XI of France had one made by the Abbot of Bain. There you are, get in ascending order of pig. I like the woman singing along with them as well.
You think she's playing the pigs, but the pigs are playing her.
And as later than the mid-19th century, there were some instruments known variously as the pig organ, the hog harmonium, pigano, porco forte, or worst of all, the swineway grand.
Nice.
So there are, yes, several people have tried to make musical instruments out of live animals, although it doesn't really work very well in practice. And now for the welcome return of a keynote of QI, a bit of general ignorance very quickly. Fingers on keypads, nicely flexed, and name something written by Winston Churchill. Who was that? Yes.
The Second World War.
Have another go.
I don't know what. He won the Nobel Prize.
He won the Nobel
didn't
Prize
he?
for Literature.
Yes, he did.
So much.
Our Prime Minister won the Nobel Prize for Literature, no question. But anyway, Winston Churchill did not write under the name Winston Churchill. Our Prime Minister didn't. Right. What did he write under the name of?
Anne Bronte.
The Gathering Storm by Anne Bronte.
Daphne du Maurier.
My early years.
Katie Price.
No, What's his full name? Do you remember his full name?
Spencer.
William Leonard Spencer Churchill. So he wrote under the name of Winston S. Churchill. Because when he started writing, there was a very successful American novelist called Winston Churchill. And so, out of politeness to him, he wrote to him this very complicated letter, which was sort of jokey, I think. He says, Winston Churchill has no doubt that Mr. Winston Churchill will recognise from this letter, if indeed by no other means, that there is grave danger of his works being mistaken for those of Mr. Winston Churchill. He feels sure that Mr. Winston Churchill desires this as little as he does himself. In future, to avoid mistakes as far as possible, Mr. Winston Churchill has decided to sign all published articles, stories or other works Winston Spencer Churchill and not Winston Churchill as formerly. He trusts that this arrangement will commend itself to Mr. Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill replied that Mr. Winston Churchill appreciates the courtesy of Mr. Winston Churchill in adopting the name of Winston Spencer Churchill in his books, articles, etc. Mr. Winston Churchill makes haste to add that had he possessed any other names, he would certainly have adopted one of them. There you go. So how polite.
Yeah.
That's so lovely.
It's nice. Like the fact they refer to themselves in the third
Mr.
person.
Churchill.
Yeah.
Now, what truly grim reading matter was banned in Germany after the war?
Romantic comedies, Mills and Boon.
Say what you hear. The clue's in the question.
Say the question again.
What truly grim reading matter was
Grimm.
The Brothers Grimm.
The Brothers Grimm.
Ah, right.
Because people believed that the real savagery of the Grimm fairy tales had contributed to something that had turned the German people nasty, the perceived barbarity of the people. The argument that they'd fostered obedience, discipline, authoritarianism, nationalism, glorification of violence, all that kind of thing, became part of the national character. According to a British major, T.J. Leonard, he said the fairy tales had helped teach German children all the varieties of barbarousness, including light flanneling. It made them easy to fit the role of hangman and so on and so forth. There was one of the stories was called How Children Played Butcher with Each Other. It was really savage. That was removed from the second edition. And in The Frog King, the frog is not kissed by the princess. He's hurled against a wall with all the strength she has to turn him into a prince. Rather battered, brutal.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 miles an hour.
2 miles an hour.
And he goes like that.
That's all he can do.
You've got little froggy arms.
On the other hand, there is a lyrical quality, the last in the collection. You'll love this story. So the little poor boy goes out into a wintry forest to collect wood on a sled. In the snow, he finds a tiny key, and next to it, an iron box. The boy inserts the key, he turns it, he lifts the lid. End of story.
Oh, really? That's Pulp Fiction.
Exactly, it's the suitcase in Pulp Fiction, exactly what I thought of it. The rest is up to your imagination, boys and girls. What do you think was in that box? I think it was a stash of porn.
That's why I used to go into the woods.
Well, we've ended on a sour, bitter, and very rude note, which is the way we like to
Once
end
again.
QI. So,
Yes,
it brings us to the scores, and let's have a look. My word, my goodness, my gracious, my goodness, and my everything. In first place, with +3, is Bill Bailey!
How do you end up with +3?
Second place, for a first-timer with -8, it's Issy! Third place, on his first appearance, is really not bad. It's Tim Minchin! And yes, in fourth place is Alan Davis! So, that's it from Issy, Tim, Bill, Alan and me, and good night.
Graham Norton welcomes more A-list guests to BBC One shortly. He's joined by Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer and Cher here on BBC Two.